Hi, and welcome back to the Hive, where we talk about all the things that business owners think about, but never want to admit that they don't know. And today we've got a doozy of a topic. It's simple on paper, but in real life, it's very messy, because let's admit it, we're all a little messy. So today with us to help us untangle this crazy topic of 1099s versus employees, I have with us Tara Bethel. She's with Quail. She's an EMBA, SHRM-SCHP. I'm never going to get all these letters right. SPHR, and one more that has numbers in it, never seen this happen before, an RY-200. Well, you know what that basically means? Basically, it means if Tara starts talking to you about HR, you better listen, because she knows what she's talking about. So, before we dive in to what is the difference between a 1099 and W-2, I have some very serious questions to ask you.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Smooth.
Okay, I like you already. Okay, what are your thoughts about brushing your teeth in the shower?
No, thank you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's just weird, people. Please stop doing it. I got it's a time saver, but seriously. Okay, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Yes, she's the winner, people.
Very rare, but Coke, yes.
Okay, and last one, but one of my favorites, before kindergarten, what did you want to be?
Ooh, that's a good one. The earliest I remember is I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And I remember that was probably post-kindergarten. I can't remember anything sooner than that.
So specific.
But I made a little business cards with a giant needle on there. I'm sure it would have scared everyone.
No, I don't do needles. I wanted to be a truck driver.
That's awesome.
I wanted to drive around. There was a series out back then. I'm going to date myself a little bit. BJ and the Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to travel the country with a monkey.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So now that we're past the fun stuff, because let's admit it, this topic can be kind of dry.
Absolutely.
And most people don't want to talk about it. But it's really important because as a bookkeeper, I see all too often businesses that will go through and they will list people as contractors. And then as I start talking to them, they're clearly not. So before we get too far, let's talk about what are the main, I know there's a lot of nuanced differences, but what are the two main differences between a contractor and an employee?
I would say control, which sounds maybe scary. But the issue of, do you control what they do, how they do it, what they need to wear, how they get materials, versus they do it all themselves. You just, set the contract and write the checks.
Okay. So if I have a landscaper that just comes and goes,
Mm-hmm.
I just say, yeah, come out once a month. Clearly a 1099. I don't control what he wears. I don't tell him, like, here's my logo, wear this when you come to my house. I don't give him a business card. He doesn't drive my vehicle. He just kind of comes and goes.
Yep, he brings all of his own materials, his own truck. He wears probably his own logo shirt.
But if that same contractor, and now I own a business, and I do say, here's my logo shirt, I want you to wear it as you go service those people. And here's a list of people that I want you to service in the order that I want you to service them in. And then, oh, by the way, when you go get materials, go to Home Depot and use my credit card or put it on an account. Clearly an employee.
I think I want to ask more questions first.
Oh, good.
And then I want to ask this person, do they work solely for you, or do they also work for Bob?
Okay.
Bob's landscape down the street and Reese's landscape across town, and they only work maybe 2 days a week for you using your materials.
So, okay, that's good. Because even though I'm doing those things, even though I have that control in those areas, it's not black or white.
Exactly.
And therefore,
it can be gray.
It gets very messy. Okay, so if they are going everywhere and they have like 5 other people they're servicing or 5 other companies they're servicing, then they're more likely a
contractor.
Okay.
Because they are not solely dependent on you for their pay.
Okay.
They have multiple clients, multiple companies that they work for and provide these services for.
So here's the question then. If they use their own materials and their own supplies, but they basically do their own schedule, but they only work for me, does that put them in one bucket or another because they only work for me?
If they are dependent on you for all of their income, then they're most likely an employee, should be classified as an employee. So
how often? So if, because these are questions we're going to get, I guarantee you.
Sure.
So but if my guy goes and works for somebody just once a year, is that deemed enough?
No, not unless he's making tens of thousands on that day to help supplement his income.
So here, I'm going to trick you up on this one. Is there a magic percentage?
There is not. That's why you've got to look at everything on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. So now we kind of understand the differences. I mean, again, there's a lot of gray space in what we just talked about. But why does it matter to me, the business owner? Why does it matter to me that I record them properly? Because here's what I hear. I don't want to pay the payroll tax. So I'm going to let him call his own schedule. If he wants to come in at 10, fine, come in at 10. But he's still doing all the same things that my employees are doing. But I'm going to call him a 1099 because he's got the flexibility of when he does it. So clearly not a 1099.
Mm-hmm.
But if the main thing I hear them looking at is to say payroll taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're missing the bigger picture. Would you agree?
They absolutely are. And they're opening themselves up to liability.
So tell me more.
So when they are having one employee who works, let's say 40 hours for them,
Okay.
but they say, no, they can decide when they come and go and those sorts of things.
Right.
But they're pretty much telling them what to do and what to wear, how to show up, how to interact with, the product or service that they're selling or teaching or sharing or providing kind of thing. And they're they have that employer-employee relationship. They're starting to set that up.
Right.
So then where it gets dicey is that if you say this person's going to be a contractor because I don't want to pay the payroll on there, it opens you up to potentially fines because they do not meet the definition of a contractor.
So who finds you? And how do they know?
So this person who's thought it was great that they had contract status, maybe they forget to pay their taxes. So then they go back and their accountant's like, you didn't pay your taxes. You all owe all this back money plus penalties. Tell me about why you took on contract work anyway. And then their advisor says, well, you probably should have been an employee. Your employer should have paid your taxes. And so now this disgruntled employee, I know this is totally foreign to you and you've never heard this situation, but then they come back to the person they were contracting for and they say, hey, I should have been an employee and you owe me this back taxes and the employer portion, the employee portion, it all should have been sent off. And so then what do you have to lean back on to cover and protect yourself?
So if they prepare a contract, does that cover them?
It depends on the contract or agreement.
Okay.
But that's a great start to make sure you're both clear. And I think it's the fair thing to do as well.
Okay.
To make sure you're both on the same page, the contractor and the business or organization.
Okay. And definitely not something you have ChatGTP prepare. You should probably have an attorney or even an HR company like yours.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, chat might give you a good start, but if you're not familiar with contract type language, I would reach out to someone that you trust, an attorney, CPA, HR consultant,
right?
Any of the above.
So, okay, now I have pissed off Paul over there because I didn't. He found out he has to pay taxes. So we kind of said that really fast, but I want to punch this pretty hard because I want people to really understand what this is. So it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know this much and you know that much. So if pissed off Paul comes back, it's not just I have to pay this year's worth of back taxes. I understand that it goes all the way back to the beginning of when they were hired.
Yes, absolutely.
So if pissed off Paul was working for me 5 years, I have 5 years worth of his employee taxes that I have to pay, plus the employer's portion I have to pay.
Plus penalties, potentially interest.
Yeah.
And then you start to see the costs rise to you exponentially. And that's for one, pissed off Paul. But then if they say, well, did they employ a bunch of people? So now it's Peter, Paul, Mary,
yeah, that's what
Polly.
I was about to say, because the government's not going to just stop there.
Mm-hmm.
And let me be clear too. it's not necessarily the IRS that's going to come after you because they're like, oh, the IRS is underfunded, so we don't have to worry about them right now. It's not the IRS. It could be.
It is potentially the IRS or the Department of Labor.
Right. So, yeah, it's in your backyard too. It's not all the way in the IRS.
That's
Okay.
right.
So now we have pissed off Paul. There is one other thing that we didn't touch on that is a direct impact of what happens when you have a contractor. Well, maybe it doesn't. Let me just ask the question. So what happens if Paul is on a job site and gets hurt and he's a contractor?
Ideally, you have an agreement already signed with Paul that says very clearly that he is responsible for his own workers' comp insurance, and he has signed a waiver with you so that it's very clear that he is in charge of his own work comp, his own, or he'll use his personal medical, and he's in charge of his own paying taxes, and that he's not entitled to unemployment, and a couple of other things need to be in there.
Okay. So, but no contract, then he could still go back and go, I got hurt on the job, and then that
I was working for you.
Still opens that same door. So now I got hurt. I was on the job. So like the example that I was given was I was thinking about hiring a runner as a contract labor, and somebody's like, you need to be careful about that because if they got in an accident and they say I was at work, then that opens up a whole mess of liability that I just wasn't prepared to take on.
And now primary care people are starting to wisen up to this as well because they want to make sure they are going to be billing the correct insurance agency.
Yeah.
So is Paul on his wife's, typical employer policy because she's with a big company? And they're like, hey, we don't want to cover this. This sounds like a work comp thing. And they deny him benefits. And so then now he's coming after you and said, hey, it was in your yard that I fell working on your stuff and you don't have an agreement with him. So now he's going to say, can I put it on your homeowners or can I put it on your business insurance?
And there goes your rates.
And there go your rates now, right?
But if you had him hired on as an employee and had workman's comp, then you kind of like have the support structure should things go wrong.
Correct.
You have those things in place. So what else are we forgetting about? So what else about not workman's comp, but what about 1099's or employees?
One thing I would like to say is that there's definitely a place to utilize 1099's. I mean, for sure. A lot of times when you start up a business and you just need people at part-time hours, or you want a big variety of people because you're sending them all over town, or, it depends on what your business is, what industry you're in. It could make a lot of sense because they're going to work 10 hours for you and 10 hours for other people around town. So, and then it's low entry, and then you don't have to set up all of your different entities or your own accounts with the state to pay taxes on them, or you don't have to get a work comp yet. You don't have to pay into unemployment yet. And you're just trying it out. Like if you're a new business owner, this might be the way you want to go until you start to scale.
Okay.
So that's one thing to keep in mind. So people want to do it for the savings because they don't want to pay the work comp. They don't want to pay the taxes and all of that. And that only lasts for so long. But if you try to do somebody, have them be a full-time contractor for you. And again, this is industry specific.
Right.
But this contractor may be charging you rates well and above what you would pay a W-2 employee.
Oh, interesting.
Because like myself, I'm a consultant. And so as I look at my hourly rate or my project rate when I charge a client, I'm going to figure in, my overhead plus taxes and work comp and unemployment, because not just for me, but for my team now that I have one. So I'm adding that 30% maybe, already to my rates. So if you take their W-2 income and add 30%, you're not saving much. And you're opening yourself up to liability. So you need to crunch the numbers.
Because
first.
I can see, that makes perfect sense. So if you have somebody that's coming in maybe 1 or 2 or 5 hours a week, okay, that's great. But if you work them up to 40, chances are you're overpaying them. Yeah, as a 1099. I never thought of that angle.
Because if they're hip to this, they're going to build in their tax money. They know they have to pay it directly themselves to the IRS, but they want to make sure they're not only making a good hourly wage, they want to make sure they have enough to cover their taxes, as well as if they want to participate in their own IRA or something like that. They need to be thinking about that and building it into the rate.
Right. So I want to switch the script for just a second. And I don't know how far we're going to be able to get into this, but we've been talking a lot about the business owner. But as like, you know, somebody has 5 or 6 people running around, or maybe more, like a well-established business owner. But what we have to remember too is then that contractor who's being paid a 1099, then technically is a business owner too. He has his own business. Whether he goes out and gets a tax ID number or not, he can still report it underneath his personal tax return. But then, so this is the benefit. There are benefits, and if you structure it well, it may be in your benefit to be a contractor because you get some things that you can write off as deductions. But again, consult a professional before you move forward, because even though you're getting to write off mileage for your vehicle or part of your cell phone or part of utilities, do the math. It may not work to your advantage. What else is there anything else that I might be missing? The key things that we need to watch out for?
I think there's, going back to your original question, and I think it's the span of control that you have over this person. And again, this is from the business owner's lens, but this really, it's not a check mark of, like, the IRS has a 20-factor list that you can consult when you're deciding how to classify someone who works for you. And it's not like, hey, if you answer yes to 60% or 70% or 80% of the questions, then they need to be an employee. It's not like that. The different factors are weighted differently.
Okay.
And so some things, like you were asking about earlier, of, well, what if I give them a polo and a work truck and tools, and I tell them which clients to serve, but they only work for you 2 days a week, and they work for other groups on the other weekdays. So they're not. So what they're going to weight is more that they're not solely dependable on you for their income.
Okay.
And so even though you gave them the shirt, which starts to make it gray, and the truck and the tools, the fact that they're not solely dependable on you has greater weight than some of those smaller things.
So you mentioned that 20-point IRS determination. We're going to get a copy of that, and we're going to post it in the notes below. So if you want to check that out, be sure to go to our website or check the notes of the podcast. Wait, there was another question. And
well, the other piece I would say too, it really doesn't matter these days who is in the administration, what party is in leadership in our country right now. It feels like both sides are definitely cracking down on this.
100%.
So it is absolutely very important for people to take the time and consult outside sources if needed to make sure they're classifying people correctly.
So from a business owner's perspective, I know I need to bring somebody in. At what point should I consult with somebody? Should it be like after I go and interview somebody, or should it be before I even start the interview process, get an idea of what I'm looking for?
Yes, even beforehand.
Okay.
Yes, an ounce of prevention beats a pound of the cure, right? It's an oldie but goodie.
So here's another question. I've seen this done a couple of times before. They will, I've seen a business owner take someone in. They're not sure if they're going to work. They hire them as a contractor during a trial period and then convert them over to a W-2. Does that throw any red flags?
Not necessarily. So I have mixed feelings about that. And I do know groups like in the trades especially.
Right.
They want to make sure that you've got the chops that you said that you have.
Right.
So I can totally, and it's a pain to put people into payroll. It's a lot of steps, manual entry, and then you got to pay them a W-2 if they don't work out.
Right. They're a day and gone tomorrow.
Yes. You know, and I'm not an attorney. I'm an HR gal. My position is the safest is to go ahead and put them in as a W-2. And then they've got a 90-day probationary period with you. And then just do the keying in of them as a new hire. And then if you have to cut them, you have to cut them. However, what I see a lot of people do is they don't really do the formal contract period first. They don't do an agreement.
During that first little period,
during that first little week or first month, and they're like, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll pay you cash. So that's like, you know, that's where it gets dicey to me. And you never know what they could come back. And what if they get hurt?
Right.
You know,
especially in the trades.
In the trades, because they could be getting on roofs or in trenches or down manholes or whatever kinds of things.
Okay, so word of advice if you're not 100% certain where you should be, you need to reach out to Tara. So if you're not sure how to reach out to her, how do they get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me Tara Bethel or Healthy HR Life there. I'm also on the gram at Healthy HR Life. And we do other facets of HR work as well.
So tell me more about that. So, I mean, because this goes well beyond just contractor and employee. I've used you a time before, and I'm going to tell you right now, she saved my butt. And so, and that's why I love her. And so, tell us some of the other things that you do too.
Yes. So Copper Quail Consulting, we help with the full employee life cycle, and we help make sure they're categorized, employees or contractors. But once they're employees, you know, everything from where do you source and how do you recruit, and then how do you select, hire, onboard, like putting all these pieces in together, or putting them together first and foremost before the person gets, you know, in the door and on the payroll is going to be helpful. But then we do all the other facets too, help you with performance management, compliance, compensation, benefits, wellness.
So is it for like the big businesses, or just this for mom and pop too?
I have a love, I think like you, for small, medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they're not big enough yet, or they don't quite have the finances yet to bring in an in-house HR person. So they want to outsource all of it or a piece of it to someone like me has, you know, almost 2 decades.
And to me, those are the people that need you the most, because they know their widget. They know what they sell or what they do, but beyond that, they really don't have a clue. And so that's when they hire bookkeepers and so it's really important to have those go-to people. So when you get stuck, you know exactly where you go to. You need to have an accountant. You need to have an HR person. You need to have an attorney. Those by far are
absolutely.
You are a good insurance person. 4, I think. But regardless, it's not something you have to be a big business for. You can be sole proprietor with maybe 1 or 2 people, and you want to grow. Like, what business doesn't want to grow? But before you get started going down the wrong path and you make some very costly mistakes, you need to reach out to the right people. I have one more question, and it's going to be a follow-up. We're going to set ourselves up to the next time you and I get together.
Okay.
Employee manual or no?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yep. I agree. I have to confess, I don't have one myself. So you and I will have to get together first, and then I can share all my experiences with you guys so that you can learn from my experiences. Because once again, just because you're a business owner doesn't mean you know everything. You need to be able to know who to trust to get the right answers you need. So any other things you'd like to share before you wrap up?
Well, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
We teased one time. We were the what?
The birds and the bees.
Yes.
Copper Quail, beekeepers.
Yes. So you'll see that one day. Yes. Maybe sooner than you think. Thank you so much for coming. She will be back. Get used to seeing her name. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to her directly, if you aren't able to find her, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'd be happy to connect you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you again soon.